Survival is not going to just be about trying to endure or being able to endure what the system does to you. It's also going to be about learning ways to disrupt what the system itself depends upon. Because corporations don't care about your vote. They don't care about your protests. They don't care about your suffering. That's very clear. But what they do care about is their own bottom line. They care about their own profitability. So if you can insert yourself into that equation, suddenly you become relevant. Suddenly you have leverage. Suddenly you have a voice. Persistent demonstration that ultimately you have the ability to impact the profitability of these predatory corporations that are, in fact, your feudal lords in America. This constitutes a revolution by attrition. You don't always need to overthrow a system. Make it more worthwhile for them in dollars and cents to deal with you in a dignified manner. If they don't deal with you in a dignified manner, then you can guarantee that that way of engagement will not profit them. When you prove that you can affect profitability, then you secure a seat for yourself at the negotiating table. That's when the corporations and the politicians who serve the corporations, that's when they're going to be forced to recognize you, because they're never going to recognize you, not as a voter, not as a citizen, but they will recognize you as an economic actor with the power to destabilize their system. That's the only way they're ever going to recognize you. So Americans are going to need to stop being passive consumers and start becoming active disruptors. Yes, use these tactics for Gaza now. Refine them now, because you're going to need these tactics. You're going to need these strategies even more for yourselves down the road. Let them know that when you declare a boycott, you're not just saying that people should reconsider patronizing this or that company. No, you're saying that this company that we are boycotting is not going to be allowed to operate smoothly. Just like when the mafia comes to extort a business. Oh, it's a lovely shop you've got here. It'd be a shame if anything happened to it. Right? When they come to extort some business, that's what they say. Yes, don't kid yourselves. That's what you're doing. A boycott is nothing but extortion. It is extorting a moral position from an amoral actor. Through pressure, through targeting what that amoral actor actually cares about, which is profit. They don't care about morals. Don't do anything violent, and don't do anything that's going to get you convicted and get your movement shut down. Any given business depends upon to make a profit and pinpoint what can be disrupted.
We were told that we fought World War II to stop the Nazis, but the second it ended, the U.S. government started paying them, and I'm not talking about a few bad apples. I'm talking about over 1,600 Nazis brought here, given jobs, and handed new lives by our own intelligence agencies. It was called Operation Paperclip. It was run by the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency in 1945. The goal? Recruit German scientists before the Soviet Union could get them. The problem? Most of the men they wanted weren't just scientists that lived under Hitler. They were full-blown Nazis, some even accused of war crimes. So what did the U.S. do? They literally erased their Nazi past from official records. Also, they could legally enter this country, change files, forge histories, stamp the papers clean, all to make sure that these men could work for the U.S. military and NASA. So let's talk specifics. Werner von Braun, this officer, built the B-2 rockets used to bomb London, which were made with the same slave labor from concentration camps. He became the face of NASA's Apollo program. Arthur Rudolph managed the Nazi rocket factory at Middlework, where thousands of forced laborers died. He later ran NASA's Saturn V rocket program. Hubertus Stronghold, called the father of space medicine in the U.S. But in Germany, he was accused of overseeing experiments on prisoners. Kurt Diebus, former SS member who became NASA's first launch director at Cape Canaveral. Walter Schreiber, Nazi medical officer linked to experiments on concentration camp prisoners, later worked for the U.S. Air Force. These weren't just alleged Nazis. These were documented SS members, war criminals, and Hitler loyalists, handed new careers by the U.S. government. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. At the exact same time America was flying Nazis across the ocean, Black veterans were being denied World War II GI benefits, redlined out of home loans, and kept out of universities. We told the world we stood against fascism. But when fascists had something that we wanted, like rockets, missiles, or Cold War leverage, we scrubbed their records and cut the checks. For decades, the U.S. hid just how many Nazis it actually recruited. It wasn't until the 1980s and 90s that journalists declassified those files and exposed the full scope of Operation Paperclip. And here's the thing, some of those men died in the U.S. as respected scientists with medals and honors, never facing a single trial for their Nazi crimes. The legacy? The moon landing made possible by a Nazi, Cold War missile programs built by Nazis, and a precedent that in America's power calculus, morality is negotiable. So when you hear America's always stood for freedom, remember this. We didn't just forgive Nazis. We funded them. We protected them. We let them shape the very technology that we brag about today. Because in this country, we'll spend generations telling you who the enemy is, and then pay that enemy to work for us. Only if it serves our interests.
I'm just now seeing this brilliant clip from James Baldwin at UC Berkeley in 1979 about Israel and Palestine. And you're going to want to watch this.
One could say that the Palestinians have been paying for Europe's guilty conscience for 31 years. And one could say that the state of Israel was not created to save the Jews, but to protect Western interests at the gate of the Middle East. And that would never have happened if it had not been for the Third Reich. That's a very bitter way to put it, but that's the truth. Now, I do not know, I was born in the Bible, but I am not so sure I believe in the biblical possession of the land. And I don't think that it's right for the Palestinians to pay for Europe's crimes.
Note that Baldwin said this nearly a decade before Hamas even existed. So what does that tell you about how little the injustices imposed on Palestinians have to do with Hamas and how much they have to do with the illegal occupation of land that belongs to Palestinians?